Good evening, Garland Nixon, and I'm here with Angela Mcardle. She is the chair of the national chair of the Libertarian Party here in the United States, and we're going to talk about defeating the deep state. Let's talk. Hello, Angela, and welcome to my humble channel. I really appreciate you you're taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're not just talking about defeating the deep state. We're actually talking about an event coming up called Defeat the Deep State. And last year, we all got together, people of all manners of ideology came together, and we said, hey, we don't like this war machine and we're unhappy. So we did our Rage Against the War Machine. It was very, very successful. It really, what was interesting about that was there were people kind of griping and complaining at the time. There's not enough people here, but it really did incredible online. And I'm glad that this year we've got another event. So Angela, tell all of our listeners about the event, when it is, where it is, everything that you can think of that they may need to know.
Absolutely. So we're doing it again this year, February 17th at the Lincoln Memorial, right there in front of it in Washington, D.C. And we're kicking off an hour earlier, 11 a.m., going all the way to 5 p.m. so that we can squeeze in more speakers and give speakers a little bit more time. We're reiterating the demands of the last rally, but we also want to emphasize defeating the deep state this time, because I think it's so critical for a lot of the people who have been activated recently. They're very angry about what our government is enabling to happen over in Palestine. I want them to really understand why that's allowed to go on. Why does the United States and our military industrial complex perpetuate these wars for empire overseas and just forever wars? How does that happen? What's up with the Federal Reserve, with the FBI, with the CIA doing regime change, and the NSA spying on people and trading data back and forth with other governments. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to come together to educate people who are passionate and really activated with an anti-war message and try to keep that thing alive. And also, Palestine is really interesting because you see the neocons all rallying to defend Israel right now and the Israeli government. But I have seen a lot of right-wing voices that are not neocons come up and question it and say, I don't know about that. I don't know about the United States putting all of our money over to Israel when we had lobbying and, Ukraine, and they seem to be sort of putting two and two together. And I think that's fantastic. So I think it's so important for us to keep this issue coalition energy up and bring people from the left and right together and say, hey, this is like a human issue. This is not a left wing, right wing issue, right? Like we all want to be alive. We don't want nuclear war, and we don't want our government doing this.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, I'm not just interviewing Angela. I am working with Angela. I'm working with the group, and I'm proud to say that I'm a part of the group of people that's putting this event on, albeit, humbly. I'm not doing a lot, but I'm doing this best, doing what I can to make sure this happens. Let me ask you a question. First question, and you get this, everybody gets this. One of the things we get is these turf wars, right? Yep. Well, why are you working with these right wingers, these left wingers, these libertarians, these socialists, these whatever the case may be, right? What do you say to people who push back against what we did so successfully last year and what we're doing now, bringing together anyone who says, hey, I don't like what's happening, who will look at these things. We got a list of things. And if you say, I'll look at these things and I agree with you, we don't ask your background, but why, what is your argument to people that try to maintain some kind of a purity test when it comes to the anti-war movement and of course the anti-deep state movement, I guess?
Well, there's no economic theory in nuclear winter. I care very much about Austrian economics, free markets, the typical libertarian causes.
Right.
But anti-war has got to be like the most important position. We need to stop murdering people overseas. It's so important. I'm so passionate about it. And it's something that so many people could come together and rally around. This is a family friendly thing, right? Like if you care about children, your own children not being shipped overseas and duped into going and murdering people overseas. If you care about children in general and you don't like that the Israeli government has, you know, terrorized and firebombed, flattened churches in Palestine, if you don't want to see Ukrainian soldiers put through the meat grinder of war and have that happen because we keep printing our dollars, right? Like this is something we should all get behind. And I think it's important enough that we should be able to set other types of ideological differences aside. And when we do that, I think that we set this really powerful example and precedent for the rest of the world. And it's kind of like an amazing thing, right? To see us come together and kind of find peace in our own communities with each other, because it's really what we want for everyone else. And that's what we want between nations. And so we should be that example.
Well, I also think this, look, if you believe in some level of democracy or a republic or however you want to look at it, wherein the people in the country have a say in how their country is ruled.
Yep.
However you look at it, you can call it a democracy, you can call it a republic, but we all agree that the people who are the workers, who are the taxpayers, who are the engine of this a country should have not just some say, but should be the deciding factors. And I think we're up against, particularly with this particular issue of the deep state, is it's something I've been harping on lately. It comes down to this: who do the politicians, who do they answer to? Who do they represent? And if you're sicking the deep state on us like your dog, well, we want to censor you. We want to know what you're seeing, know what you're reading, where you're going, what you're tweeting, etc. If you're using them like some kind of a guard dog for the ruling elite, then clearly not only do we not have any say in the politics, but after a while, it gets fairly obvious that the politicians are operating on behalf of the deep state and of the people, the corporations, the oligarchs, whoever they represent, that they see us as a problem. That they don't just see us as like, okay, you guys are just people who work and give us the money. After a while, it's like, well, you're asking too many questions. You're pushing back. You're saying you want money for roads instead of money for these bombs. You're saying why are we broke as a country and $34 trillion in debt when we got all of this money coming in? How's that work? They don't want to hear that from us. And I think that's the other issue. We realize we have a right to have a say, and we don't have a say. And they're using the deep state as their attack dog on the people of the United States.
Absolutely. I want to govern my own life, and I want to decide how my tax dollars are spent. I don't want them going overseas. Like, not to be, blackpilling or discouraging, but sometimes I think, what if you had massive, like, populist wave, right? And you elected all the quote unquote right people. What do you do though about this deep state apparatus that is still there? And if Donald Trump comes into office and he's like, I'm out for revenge, I'm firing all the deep state actors who screwed me over, can he even do that?
Right. Good point.
I don't know. Like, we've got to start talking about this. We've got to start pointing out what these people are doing and how they remain in power. One of the things that I think would be really interesting is a proposal, and I don't know if the president or Congress would have to do this, but term limits for congressional staff. Not even Congress, but the people who are running, like, there are people who stay there decades. What about the Pentagon black budget? Like, there are so many things that we just don't get to see it, and
how about this? That these generals and these people out of the Pentagon should not be able to go right into the military-industrial complex.
Yes. Yeah. The revolving door of, oh, good job murdering everybody. Let's go get a job at Lockheed Martin or Halliburton and vice versa. Super gross. Super gross.
Yeah, because to me, it seems like when you're in the Pentagon and you're a general, you're auditioning for your job when you leave. So when they say, okay, Lockheed Martin is trying to get a $20 billion contract to build the latest drone or whatever the heck it is, Lockheed Martin comes to you and no, there's nothing in it for you today, but you know good and well, if you help push that contract, you've got 4.5 years before you retire, right?
Ugh.
You know, if you push this back 4.5 years from now, you don't have to call them. They're going to call you, or your wife, or your daughter, or your nephew. You know the game. See,
Yep.
that's the other side of it.
It's really complicated, man. I don't know the full answer to solving that problem. I mean, I'd love to see something like a non-compete clause, where it's like, well, you finish your job at the Pentagon, and sorry, you can't go work for any private organization for another like 5 to 10 years. If it's
If ever.
Yeah, I like that. I like that even better.
Let me ask you this. Do you have a list? We have a list of things. I don't know if you do. You have handy the list of, I don't want to call you demands, things that we all agree on, etc. So I think that's important, because for people who are saying, okay, what are you guys all about? Defeat the deep. Oh, have we given them the date? Have we given them the date and time?
Yeah, February 17th. It's a Saturday.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this. Everybody who's involved has read, we got a document, hey, these are the things that we all have to agree on. If you can't agree on those things, fine, you're not part of it. But read the things so that the people that are watching and listening will understand what it is. And maybe we can talk about them a little bit, each one.
Absolutely. So we've got a simple list of demands for this rally. It starts with number 1, pardon Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, and all whistleblowers. Number 2.
Well, let's go from one at a time.
Yeah.
Just a minute or so on each one. I think that's incredibly important, because Julian Assange, to me, that's about the First Amendment, which is in terrible danger right now. It's just getting trampled with the censorship. Yep. But what's important is, the old camel, they say in the legal community, right? The camel under the camel's nose under the tent. Once he gets his nose under the tent, but won't be long, under the edge of the tent, won't be long before the whole body's there. It's not just the First Amendment. Once the First Amendment is kind of a foundation in America. They don't have it in Europe. They don't have it a lot of places. It seems to me that if they can take the First Amendment away so clearly and obviously, then at that point, the deep state says, man, that Fourth and Fifth Amendment, freedom from unreasonable search and seizure, you don't have to incriminate yourself. Maybe we can work on those too. So it seems like once they pull that block out of the wall, they're going to go after, all of the Constitution at that point is in danger. Your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. And, the issue with Julian Assange is he's not technically a whistleblower. He's a reporter. He didn't sign any vows. Like, he and Edward Snowden are very different, and I want to see them both freed. But he didn't sign any oaths to the United States government. He didn't work at the government and expose their secrets from some private information he'd agreed to keep private. He's a journalist. He publishes things that people give him. He's not even a United States citizen. It's totally insane. It'd be the same as arresting and holding some New York Times reporter, without due process for 10 plus years, although some of us might think New York Times reporters are a little more deserving of that treatment, but it's that level of like absurdity. But I think that there's, it's almost journalistic fog of war around it, where nobody really understands what the heck's going on. They're like, the government's after him. Is he like these other guys? It's like, no, he's like literally just a journalist.
And there's two issues here too. Number one, what did they go after him for? Number one, they're charging him for revealing it was in Iraq. It was basically revealing war crimes from the government. Yep. He revealed that not even his government, our government committed war crimes, potential war crimes. They appeared to be war crimes. There was prima facie evidence of war crimes, and they deserved to be investigated. So basically, he put out video of the U.S. doing something that on its face appeared to be illegal under international law. That's what they're going after him for. But add this, a lot of people don't know this. When they really went after him he released the Vault 7 files, which again, what did that show? First Amendment stuff. It showed that the United States deep state had all of these programs, and they were using them. They could literally anything that you have a microphone, like your television, your remote for your TV oftentimes is voice activated. They could hack into that and listen to you. Anything that had a camera, your car, your phone, anything they could. And even worse than that, they lost control of all of this stuff on the internet. So it's out there, so any bad guy can get it. Not that they're not bad guys. So he revealed something that we desperately needed to know that our government was doing wrong. He did it in another country. To me, that would be like you or violate the speed limit in Oklahoma and they come from Maine and they arrest you for or give you a ticket. They don't have jurisdiction in Oklahoma. That's the Maine state police. But so all the way around, it's government overreach. I'll put it like this. If the government can go to another country and charge a person who did something in another country, you talk about government overreach and government power. It doesn't get any worse than that.
Absolutely. And Julian Assange's next court dates in London are February 20th and 21st. So I think it's really important for us to show up in DC right before that happens and say, you know, Julian Assange needs to be freed. Enough is enough. It's not okay to murder this man, though, which is what they're trying to do. You know, they're really, they want to kill him. It's totally gross. We need to stand up for him, and we need to do it right there in the heart of the swamp. And make a real public scene about it.
A lot of people don't. Go ahead. What we're going to say.
There's also, I think it's House Resolution 934 right now. We need more people to sign on. I believe this is a bipartisan effort between Thomas Massey and some members of the squad. I think there's some other people who've signed on. So people should call their representatives and say, like, please sign on to this. It's so important to sign on before February 20th.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at that point, you know, once the First Amendment's out of the way, I mean, if you say they can arrest you for saying I'm opposed to this war, people forget we got a history. We have people, Eugene Debs. We have people during the run up to the to World War I. You know, a number of people were arrested just for saying they're against the war. We could get back there, and certainly this group of morons we got running things now would love to be there. All right, number two.
Number two, abolish the FBI. I think this is something that Vivek Ramaswamy's already on board. So here you go. You got right-wingers on board with abolishing a huge part of the deep state. I mean, that just tells me like the future's bright.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, you have so many people. For instance, I remember I was surprised when Tucker Carlson and what's his name that runs The Blaze? Glenn Beck. They both came out. If you remember when the FBI charged the Uhuru African People's Socialist Party, and Glenn Beck came in, and a lot of conservatives and libertarians came out because they thought, well, that's the African People's Socialist Party. They're nobody. And they said, wait a minute. Whether they agree with them or not, they are exercising their constitutional rights. See, people are starting to wake up. I remember when they first went after Alex Jones, and all people were like, oh, Alex Jones. I said, time out. The First Amendment is there to protect unpopular speech. You don't need it to protect popular speech. They're going to go after Alex Jones. Then they're going to come after you next. They're going to go after the African People's Socialist Party, and people who aren't socialists going to go, yay, we hate them, or whatever, right? And then the next day, bop, 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 there they are at your door. Oh, you went here or there or whatever. Boom, we're arresting you too. So I think that's a critical issue to understand. The FBI had the whole thing where they went after Trump. And again, I'm a lefty. I'm not a Trump supporter.
Right.
I'm a lefty, but I'm not one of these Trump derangement idiots either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here's the thing about it. Here's a guy who won. They didn't like him. He won. He legitimately, they did everything they could to stop him, and he won. He became president. And we found out that the FBI was running an illegal operation against the duly elected president of the United States, that they were using foreign intelligence agencies to assist them. They were tapping his phones. They were tapping other people's phones. They were literally texting each other saying, we're going to stop this guy. We've got an insurance policy. What the FBI did in that crossfire hurricane operation against Trump is you got to be, I mean, really brainwashed not to look at that and say that's inappropriate and illegal.
It's crazy. People are saying we've got to remove a sitting president or we've got to kick him off the ballot to save democracy. I don't
Right.
understand. We got to have just one guy on the ballot to save democracy. That's like that's that's just like totalitarianism. I mean, it's not democracy. I
Yeah,
don't
well,
get it.
the most blatant, and I tell people, anybody who wants to defend the FBI or say they didn't do anything illegal, I say, well, here's one obvious thing, and then we'll go on to the next one. This is obvious. In 2019, a guy in Delaware had Hunter Biden's laptop. He called the FBI, come get it. They didn't respond. He called them again. They finally came and got it. They took his laptop. They had it. A
Yeah.
year later, the election was going on. The FBI had his laptop for almost a year. They had it. They knew what it was. I'm sure they did forensic test on it. So they got his laptop. At that point, now, and I want everybody to think about this. The FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop and they knew it was valid. They knew everything about it. The FBI then went to the social media companies and said to them, if anybody comes to you and tells you that Hunter Biden's laptop is out here and it has stuff on it that could be detrimental to Joe Biden, it's Russian disinformation. And you're going to have to censor it, and we'd be happy to help you do it. And they were on the phone. They're on the phone. Take this piece up, take this down, blah, blah, blah. They literally put together 51 schmucks to write, this has all the earmarks of Russian disinformation, which in fact, what they were doing was deep state disinformation. So
Right.
the FBI did an illegal made an illegal attempt, an illegal operation deliberately with malice and aforethought to interfere with the 2020 election. So anybody that thinks that an agency that has the laptop in their hands and goes to the social media, and now we know they went to social media. If we know they went to social media, then they went to all the other regular media and told it. They didn't say we have it. They didn't say we know anything about it. They said if anybody even says it exists, it's Russian disinformation. And when the article started coming out, they worked with these social media and media to discredit and to censor these things. At that point, this is not a law enforcement agency anymore, which it's supposed to be a national law enforcement agency. This is an illegal, illicit, clandestine intelligence agency agent that's operating against the democracy, against the republic, against the wishes of the American people.
I heard Donald Trump wants to give them a new building. I propose Alcatraz. I think it's
right, exactly. Yeah, building, exactly.
building.
Exactly. Yeah, they need a new building, all right. Yeah, exactly. A jail.
Yes.
At any rate, okay. Next, number 3.
Abolish the NSA.
Oh my God! I live something you probably didn't know. I'll tell you this. I can tell you this. My connections to the NSA. I live in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. The number one employer in Anne Arundel County is the National Security Agency. I drive by it all the time if I'm going to DC or whatever on Route 32. You drive by, and here's what people know. People around this area know: when you drive by NSA, your phone goes out. When you drive, when you get right in that area, your phone goes out till you get past it on the other side. I have a member of my family who, let's just say, was very good at math. The NSA went to this member of my family's in high school. Boom, we need you to work for us. Took the member of my family who happened to be good at math, who worked there for like 30 years or something and retired doing what I don't know. It was technical stuff, the computers or mathematics or who God only knows what write programs. I don't know. I didn't ask. But bottom line is this. This is just a high school.
Yep.
And they're watching everywhere. Oh, there's a kid over here who's really good at math, huh? Yep. They're watching everything. They're watching everywhere. They are everywhere. Right now, they're taking notes. Oh, Angela Mcardle and Garland Nixon, huh? Let's get a little closer. I don't think they can get a closer eye on us than they already have. But the NSA, did you ever say anything else to say about it? So I wanted to let you know I'm intricately familiar with the NSA.
It's just, this is what enables so many of these other these unconstitutional agencies to do their jobs. The NSA is just sweeping up all of the data and all of these other scumbag agencies can come and get data from them when they need to conduct their operations. It's totally unconstitutional. It's warrantless. It's deeply personal and gross. The amount of surveillance and the sort of private things that they're collecting. I'm sure that they have all kinds of people's, private bedroom, bathroom activities. If you're on your phone, or you have your laptop camera on at the wrong moment. It's just, even from a very, just like a common sense, very like average vanilla American perspective, I just can't find anything more contemptible. We don't allow like strangers and creeps to spy in our bedroom windows. But
Yeah.
there are strangers and creeps spying into our homes.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say about that is, if someone says we need them to protect us, well, obviously that ain't their job, is it?
No.
Anyone who argues you guys want to abolish the deep state, they're there to protect us, you are naive. If you think the deep state is there to protect us, they're there to protect somebody, maybe Hunter Biden, people like that. They're there to protect the people on the Epstein list, sure, but they are not there to protect us. So, thumbs down on the deep state.
No,
let's go to the next one. They're out of here. They're out of here.
Abolish the CIA.
Coups. What is it? Coups, insurgencies, and assassinations. That's it. What that stands for?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the whole thing with the Ukraine war, which is what really kicked off the left-right coalition that Nick Brana and I were very fortunate to set up together, was the Ukraine war and the regime change, Victoria Nuland, the whole involvement since 2014 with the United States government meddling in foreign affairs. And obviously, like, there's so much more that's happened than just the war in Ukraine. It goes, all the way back to Iran, Central and South America. I think they did Peru over the summer. What a gross thing to say. Like, most people will be like, I vacationed there. And the CIA is like, oh yeah, we regime changed Peru over the summer. Here, look at our photo slides, right? Like, it's so absurd that it is kind of comical, like a dark comedy. But I mean, the reality is, this is what destabilizes entire countries and areas of the world. People get murdered, they get strung up, they end up with there was slavery in Libya after many years. It doesn't matter if Gaddafi is a sucky dictator. It's just not our decision. It's not our right, or Hillary Clinton's right, to go in, lop the head off of a dictator and throw an entire country and region into chaos. That's horrendously wrong.
And my position is this: I've come to a realization now that over the course of time, as I study history, I find that country after country, where they psyoped us and they told us, and it was always this: the leader is an evil dictator. Every country, that when they decide they're going to overthrow a country, a psyop goes all across America. This so-and-so is an evil dictator. Oftentimes, when you look at that country, that person oftentimes has a higher approval rating than the president of the United States, more often than not. You know what I mean? So they start with, they tell us, they demonize a leader, a country, a party, and then they utilize that to turn that into support because they're planning on overthrowing the government. And to agree with you, here's the bottom line: every country has a right to develop or not develop. However they do. If it works for them, fine. If it don't work for them, but if we stick our hands in it and then they get all screwed up, it's not, you can't say where that country would have gone. It could have been the best country. It could have been the worst. But what's interesting is, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, the Smith-Munson Act. So now, thanks to our dear, wonderful leader, Barack Obama, the CIA can run operations against the United States.
Yep.
The CIA can run operations, and they do run operations, and they were involved in the whole Russiagate thing against us. So the CIA, when we talk about the NSA, when we talk about the CIA, when we talk about all of these the FBI, the reality is at one point we were talking about agencies that did different things. Now, to me, they're just how like some countries will have, what do you call it? Like a police state. They'll have like a police agency that snatches people and drags them in and beats them and whatever, interrogates them. What I forgot what the term you call, but you know what I mean. That's all these intelligence agencies have become. Their job, I mean, other than doing the CIA doing evil things overboard, is to keep us in line, because we're starting to ask, why the hell are we paying all these taxes and we can't even get anything fixed? We can't get our water. We can't get anything fixed, and we're $34 trillion in debt. And all you can say is, "Oh, by the way, we've decided to add some extra speed cameras." So that's another 40 freaking bucks. They just keep finding more ways to rob us. I mean, I don't even want to go there. Don't even start me on speed cameras and red light cameras and all that, because that's a whole nother show. That infuriates me. It's just a clandestine way to stick their filthy hands in our pockets and rob us more, so they can use it to send it overseas.
Yeah. Red light cameras are just they're stop and frisk is what they are. Stop and shake down, it's just take all the money out of your pocket. So thank you, and then
what it is?
What it
is? I remember some years ago, a friend of mine was in some place in Mexico, right? And it was, he was there with the locals. And what he found out was, in this particular town, the police were very corrupt. You probably heard these kind of stories. They'd pull you over and they'd say, "Oh, you're an American. Yeah, give me a 20. And you're speeding. You weren't speeding. You're speeding, American. Give me a 20 and walk." You give them a 20 and they let you walk, right? So it was a corruption, but everybody knew the game. So they'd had a 20 with them. They're pulling us over. Here's a 20, right? They knew the game, right? That's all that is. That's their way of pulling you over and grabbing that 20. Now they put a red light camera up and you get something in the mail, but it's the same kind of corrupt thing.
Absolutely. Causes more traffic accidents too. There's this guy, Jay Bieber, who got almost all the red light cameras removed in California.
Really?
At the state level. Yep. And almost all of them out of LA County too, with the exception of like West Hollywood. I think he moved to Arizona when everything imploded over there in 2020. But the work that he's done is phenomenal. His name is Jay Bieber. And somehow he's been able to figure out how to convince these bureaucrats, just by showing them how awful their own work is, how they cause accidents and, like all kinds of traffic problems to get rid of them. So maybe we just need to pass them around the country and start.
You're right. We need to fight that, because, people pay. I know a guy who's has a plumbing company, and he's got like a dozen trucks, and he does real well, right? Yep. But you wouldn't believe, I'm just not going to say it, because some people listening to him that are friends of mine might know the guy, but he does real well, right? Of course, he's got a lot of plumbers, but here's my point. You wouldn't believe the numbers that he pays in red light cameras, traffic cameras per month. And these are guys that are, they're just regular driving around, but they do things like, it's 40 miles an hour you're driving. They'll knock it down to 25, and they'll put the red light camera right on the other side as soon as it changes. And like the 25 is behind some bushes, so you can't see it. So it's a setup. They'll put red light cameras in, and they'll lower the time for the yellow light, so they get more people who don't. So this guy's like, man, I'm paying like sometimes $1,000, $1,500 a month in these things. Think about that. That's $15,000 a year, $10,000, $15,000 a year. They're taking out of a business person who's got to pay those people and pay for those trucks and all that kind of stuff. You're a business person busting your butt, unclogging toilets, and they hit you for another $15,000 a month. It's a crime.
It's like a mafia shakedown. Yeah. That's really, it's a mafia shakedown.
Absolutely. All right. What's next? This is fun.
It is. Abolish NATO.
Oh my God. I'm all ears. Go ahead. You had me at abolish. You just put something behind it, and NATO is good enough, but let's go.
So first of all, who pays for most of NATO? It's the American taxpayer. We do. We basically outsource our military to European countries and NATO in general, the organization, so that we can help them terrorize Russia and make Vladimir Putin feel uncomfortable and set off proxy wars. It's just totally nuts. I just don't consent. I don't consent to it. Why are we funneling money to this extra constitutional agency? And it's almost like It's like Team America World Police, but just for, a certain quadrant of the world. And now NATO wants to expand into like the South Pacific and become a global organization. It's so terrifying. Uh, the rules in NATO, if one country is aggressed upon, then all the others have to respond. It's just totally like it's an existential threat to us, and it would behoove us to remove ourselves from NATO and to which would cause it to either collapse or considerably scale back. I want to see the whole thing abolished, but I would love for us to take the first step of just pulling out.
Yeah, if we pull out, it's gone. And
Yeah.
let Europe figure out what's in
Yep.
Europe's best interest. And at that point, Europe has a gigantic, powerful nation beside them, which means they got to sit down and be honest and say, how can we work this out where everybody's secure? And that's the healthiest thing for everybody.
It
We
is.
wouldn't want France to come over here and say, we're going to control your borders with China, with
Like
Mexico
Mexico.
and
That'd be
Canada.
so insane.
No.
Could you
The
could you
other,
imagine, like, how would our government react if all of a sudden France started putting up some special operation thing 20 miles away from us in Mexico? We would go completely ballistic.
yeah, you got to think about this too. I thought about this. People aren't thinking about this. So recently I read that the US, got an agreement with the Philippines to build some bases, right? Because of course they want a war with China now.
Yeah.
And they're building one base. I was able to find that one of them was 500 million. So while we're sitting here wondering how people trying to figure out how they're going to feed their family and keep their
Yep.
electricity on, now they said, oh, NATO and Sweden, Finland and Sweden are now part, and Finland has allowed us to build all these bases. Here's what the question: how much does that cost? We're going building a bunch of bases. Is Finland interested? Finland's got 6 million people. I live in Maryland.
Right.
We got 6 million people in Maryland. So we're going to go spend the money that we're spending on those bases could provide everything those 6 million people need. They're not in danger of being killed. You could give them
Nope.
food and shelter if they wanted food and shelter, but we're spending money, millions, probably billions, building bases in Finland to encircle Russia, which does absolutely nothing to benefit the American people. In fact, it just puts us in greater nuclear danger, Angela.
What problems does Finland have? Like, no offense, Finland, but I mean, what are your problems that you need our money that desperately? Like, it's just completely out of control. We have crumbling infrastructure, healthcare costs that are completely exorbitant.
Schools, we got schools where teachers have to bring in paper and various things that they use because the school system doesn't have money for just the basic supplies that a kid needs to get education. You remember, I think it was 2 years ago, some teachers somewhere went on strike. And the reason they went on strike is because the heating and air conditioning in their schools wasn't working. Heating and air conditioning wasn't working. But yet we can build a base in the Philippines, and NATO's all over creation.
In that NATO base, I bet the heating and air conditioning is working very well.
Yeah. Oh, how about that? Yeah. All right. Next.
Abolish the Department of Homeland Security.
Thank goodness. As soon as I heard that name, remember when they first came up and, we're coming up with a new department. What? The Department of Homeland Security. I thought, fatherland. You know what I mean? It just, even that, the Department of Homeland Security. We're protecting the homeland. When I hear that has an ominous tone to it. You kind of know what they're up to when they name the damn thing Homeland Security.
How long has the Department of Homeland Security been around?
2004, 3, 5.
2000. It was after 9/11.
Yes, it was like right after they came out with the Patriot Act. Well, never. I think I've just told the whole story right there, haven't I?
So first we had TSA, and then we had ICE, and then we got Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And what we found out with the Twitter files and some of these other things is that one of the things the Department of Homeland Security, remember they tried to make that thing with Scary Poppins, as she was often called, the whatever, they were going to have a committee on censoring us. Remember that?
Yeah.
With the really weird lady that sang Mary Poppins songs about censorship. But bottom line, when I did a lot of research and I found that there were people there saying to her, well, we've already been working with Twitter and we're working with them. So the bottom line is the Department of Homeland Security is not about securing the homeland from
No.
external threats. It's about securing the homeland. By homeland, I mean the ruling elite and the government.
Yeah, absolutely.
From those of us who would contest what the hell they're doing that we're not happy with.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a boot on our necks. It needs to be completely abolished. I hope that whoever our next president is someone who has the cojones enough to start stripping some of these and at least start aggressively, like mass firings would be like, that would really make my day. But they need to be abolished. They're unconstitutional. They suck up billions of taxpayer dollars, maybe trillions actually. They're completely unaccountable to us. You know, they're just unelected bureaucracy, and they murder people and they strip us of our rights. That's totally nuts. We had our founding fathers like revolted over not having proper representation and being taxed over tea. I cannot imagine. It really blows my mind how we got to this point. And that anything I'm saying now would be controversial. I'd love to think that the average American, if they hear all this, they'll at least nod their heads in agreement and say, you're right. Like, I'm too busy to do much about it, but I agree with you.
Yeah, the Department of Homeland Security. You know, it's funny that a minute ago, one of the things I was talking about was like how some governments have an agency that oppresses the people. That's the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah.
That's the Stasi. You know, that is the government agency whose job is to walk around and look over your shoulder. What are you reading? What are you writing? What are you thinking? Yep. What are you saying? That's what I get from the Homeland DHS. What are you thinking? What are you saying? What are you reading? Yeah. What are you writing? Are you doing something that would push back against the government, against the state, against the billionaires? If so, we're going to bring that to a screeching halt.
And the reason they do that too, you know, they want to go further than censoring your speech. Censoring speech it's also about censoring thought. Mm-hmm. They want you to be afraid to say certain things, and then so that you, to the extent that you don't even think them. They want you to be catching yourself in your head and going, oh, nope, not that one. And then for your little thoughts to go in a completely different direction. That's why free speech is so important. And, you know, why these agencies all just need to be wiped off the face of the earth.
Yeah. Exactly. That's where we are. You know, I always tell people, you know, when people talk about comedians, I say my favorite comedians of all time, and I'm older than you are, but it was Richard Pryor and George Carlin, and those guys didn't care. They'd say anything. I love Chappelle now. I like the comedian that's going to offend me and everyone else. I love the comedian that's going to say things that are making me go, oh man, to make people turn red. Not like that's the social and philosophical commentary. Comedians are geniuses. Now we have people, they tell a joke and people are like, oh, wow, too many people would be offended by that. You're not allowed to tell. The hell with that crap. And I feel like the DHS that's their job in general to make it's gotten to be the point where our job is, let's read that tweet Angela made about Gaza, about Ukraine, about something. Well, that tweet's unacceptable. Let's put something on that tweet that says, well, you might not need to read this tweet because click here. They're like Facebook. They'll fuzz something out where you can't see it. And they'll say this, some people could find this offensive, but click here if you really want to say, well, I can figure out if I find it offensive. And here's the other part. I know how to block people. If there's somebody on there I don't want to watch, you don't have to throw them off. I know how to block them. You're not throwing them off to protect me. You're throwing them off to protect the government or the entities that are doing things that we don't like.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting what does and doesn't get, you know, censored and flagged by so many of these organizations. I see a lot of like flat earth commentary, you know, like that doesn't seem to be a threat to anyone, you know, and it's like really out there, but they just like let that slide because, you know, the flat earthers aren't gonna storm the Capitol kind of thing. They're just kind of out there roaming around. It's not really subversive thought. And yeah, we got to get rid of the
Oh,
Department of Homeland Security.
yeah, that whole January 6th thing, that's a whole nother show there too, I'm sure. I tend to think, January 6th, there was probably more like DHS and FBI people in the crowd
Absolutely.
than anybody else. You
Totally.
probably take like some video from there, and you go down to the DHS and FBI building, and you just like watch all the people. Hey, I saw your face. Get some,
Right.
you know.
It's a reunion for them.
Yeah, exactly. A bunch of little Ray Epps running around. Okay, what next? What number are we on?
We're on number 7, and there's 8
Oh,
of them.
all right. What's 7?
Up next is abolish the corporate state.
Okay, tell me about that. I want to understand it.
Yeah, so when we're talking about this is one that the People's Party, who's partners with the Libertarian Party, was really passionate about including. And what we're talking about is how large corporations, get to basically play a role in developing policy, especially foreign policy. They benefit from it, just like Lockheed Martin, Halliburton, that whole revolving door aspect. That needs to go.
I recall a while back something I reported on. And there was a big war because Microsoft was trying to get a $10 billion contract from the Pentagon, and Elon Musk's group, whatever the hell, whichever one of his companies was trying to get a $10 billion, SpaceX, whoever the hell, was trying to get a $10 billion. Okay. So it ended up, a couple of things happened. One of them was there was an employee at the Pentagon who got fired because Microsoft, or whichever one of the two companies, had offered them a job with lots of money. So basically it's, you help me get this through, I'll give you, it would pale, you know what I mean? Under, graft and corruption. Then in the end, now this is what's going to kill you. In the end, whichever company got it, right? The other one was pissed. So Congress just went and wrote another $10 billion contract for something else and so they were never really competing. In the end, it was like, hey, I wanted that $10 billion contract and Angela got it. Never fear, Garland. Congress, we need another 10.
Just write up another one.
Hey, print it up, whatever. 10 billion. Is that all? Did they need more than 10? Nah, 10 will do. Boom, boom. 10 billion. It was like Oprah. You get 10 billion. Everybody gets $10 billion.
Printer go burr. Yeah.
Yeah, except us. We don't get the $10 billion.
No.
Yeah, so
handful of us get what was it, a $200 stimulus check?
Yeah, exactly. And exactly. And we still had to pay taxes on that.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, and you get what you get. The other thing is this: you get these people who work for, let's say they work for the gas and pipeline, companies. Then they get hired by the government to enforce the regulations on pipelines. You know what I mean? It's that other part where the corporation people become part of the administration. Yep. And they control the administration. And it ends up this incestuous relationship where you don't know where the line goes between Pfizer, for God's sake. But yeah. I'm sure you learned all this stuff about Pfizer and NIH and all of these various countries, the CDC and all of that, where like money is literally passing hands between the CDC and Pfizer. And somebody's like involved in something with the CDC and they're making money from Pfizer. And then they go to the board of Pfizer and it's exactly, how is Pfizer not, well, I'll put it like this. They're supposed to be the government. They're supposed to be working on our behalf, but they're filling their pockets from Pfizer. And they ended up telling us, well, you got to take this. And when we say, well, I don't, but what if I don't want to take it? But we get paid a lot if you take it. So now you're going to get fired. You can't go to a movie. You can't do anything unless you take what we told you to take, even if you don't want to, even if you feel like it'll hurt you, no matter what, you got to take it because I work for Pfizer. Oh, and the CDC, and I get paid from patents from both of them. That's unacceptable.
Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, it's all part of the corporate state. They, it's unfortunate, but they govern us. They govern certain aspects of our lives. They're the ones that decide, whether or not we get poked. They're the ones.
Yeah, exactly.
They have complete immunity. It doesn't matter if you get hurt from your woke poke or what, whatever we want to
Right.
call it for YouTube. It doesn't matter. They have complete immunity. It's just we got to abolish it. That can't be the case. There needs to be some Supreme Court rulings that should be overturned.
Oh,
I
what's the
don't.
big one with the food, with the seeds and all?
Yeah,
You
that
know,
one as well.
what's the big one? Everybody knows that, and that what is that? I can't think of
Circuit
it. Somebody in the
2012. I can't remember
somebody
the name of the ruler,
somebody in
but
the
I know
chat will
one.
tell me the big food one with the seeds and all. But the bottom line is, and here's the thing about it, a perfect example. When NAFTA, I could go on about that too. When NAFTA started, right? The North American Free Trade Association, one of the things that happened was you had all of these Mexican farmers that were small. They had a small farm. They were surviving. They were making a few bucks. They were living their lives. They were raising their family. But they were happy as can be, right? NAFTA comes in, and this company comes in and starts selling all of this. It kills the price of corn and things that they were selling with GMO crap.
Mm-hmm.
Kills the price. Now all of these Mexican farmers lose their home, lose their farm. Guess what happens? They show up at the border. Now, people in America are like, immigration. But if you dig down to the reason for that immigration, there was a huge wave of immigration from Mexico. And what was that about? That was about this company owning the government, being able to set up a situation where they could run all of those little farmers out of business so they could own the whole corn and all of that stuff. Then after they ran them out of business, they could make more money. But they ended up, now lost everything. What the hell? I'm going to go to the United States and cut grass for a living. At least I got to eat. And now we're upset, we're angry, we're like, what the hell's going on at the border? But if we trace it back, it's exactly what you said. It is the corporate state creating an environment, and they're happy because now they're getting cheap labor.
We have memory hold all of that. It's like any policy that takes place that affects Central and South America is just wiped from the brain of most Americans. Same with regime change and government. The other agencies meddling in the affairs of other countries. We'll see if we get a big wave of immigrants and people at the border from Peru in a few years after we've wrecked that economy. Yeah, I wish that people, especially people on the right who don't like what they call migrant hordes, people who have been driven probably from their own homes because of socioeconomic issues, coming to the border. I understand it. I know that it's a difficult situation, but we do need to start learning from our own mistakes. Because we just keep repeating this over and over again as we just come like a wrecking ball through these countries.
It's a good point, because here's the reality. We do understand that when you bring in a lot of low wage workers, that it affects people who have jobs. It drives down wages. We understand that. That's a reality. I'm a person who is, I'm, not anti anybody, but other to get to the bottom of it. But look at Europe. Where did all of those immigrants come from? Syria. What happened in Syria? We tried to overthrow the government. Afghanistan, Iraq, right? We overthrew Libya 2 weeks before the overthrow of Libya. And I will tell you, I can tell you this for a fact, right? 2 weeks before, and anyone can look this up, two weeks before the overthrow of Libya, Tony Blair was on the phone with Gaddafi. And Gaddafi said, look, there's a lot of migrants. This is the gateway to Africa. There is a lot of migrants that want to get to our borders, go through our country, and end up in Europe. If you overthrow our country, and here's what he said, you're going to turn Europe black. That's what, I mean, people might like it or not like it. I'm just telling you, that's what Gaddafi said. Basically, he was saying to him, look, there's a lot of poor people in this region. If you overthrow this government, they're going to be able to go right through here, and you're going to have a lot of poor immigrants. You know what Gaddafi said to him? Well, if you got another country to go, Blair, if you got another country or somewhere, whatever you're going to do it, because we're going to overthrow the government, right? Now, then the Europeans are like, damn it, look at all of these people showing up. It ain't an accident. It's not an accident.
Yeah, I just watched the episode of The Crown that was ripping on Tony Blair for his horrendous foreign policy just last night. It's a dramatization, but it is interesting to see this like smooth talking, socialist leaning guy who just had absolute like war hawk policy and
Exactly.
begging,
Total fraud, a total fraud, a total lie.
begging Bill
Really,
Clinton, to
yeah,
bomb Kosovo. Just ugh, gross.
yes. And those people are fraudulent because the reality is they'll never let you know who they really are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you look at what they did, they'll tell you who they. But the bottom line is what happens in Europe is you get these countries going all over Africa and the Middle East, destabilizing them, and the foreign policy shows up at their door. You know what I mean? Add this. There are a lot of people right now in Europe that are like, what about all these Ukrainian migrants? We don't have money. We can't afford. They need you to go back. We can't. What was that? Again, that's neocon foreign policy. They've destabilized Ukraine. Now you got Ukrainians running all over the place. So it's the same thing. This crap needs to stop. All right. Do we have one more?
Last one, abolish the military industrial complex.
Woo!
I think, I think most of the things that we've talked about, really cover it. The revolving door, wars for empire, the Pentagon especially, I think is a huge part of the military industrial complex that just, they don't get any scrutiny. They can fail their budget. They can fail an audit over and over and over again. And there's zero consequences. And if a private company were set that way, if your personal finances ran this way, like no one else would be allowed to behave this way.
And you said something interesting because you said if a private company were to operate this way, right? But in reality, they're supposed to be private companies. We're told that they're private companies, but
the corporate
are
state,
they really?
They're not.
Right. There's something else. These are we got these companies now who have come to the realization, and that's why if you look at the tech sector, et cetera, right?
Yep.
They've come to the realization that the biggest pile of money is the government.
Totally.
And so now they're all huddling around. That's why all of these companies are moving their headquarters to Arlington. They're moving their headquarters to, Crystal City. They're all moving their headquarters to Washington. Why? The old saying is the lion stays close to the herd of impalas, right? That's where he eats. And now we got these companies moving their headquarters. Why? Because look, this is what they live off. They don't. If you have a company, you got to come up and provide something for people out there. You got to say, hey, what do people want? What services, goods, et cetera, right? They don't really have to do that. All they got to do is keep coming to the government with magic. Yeah, like imagine if we had a missile that could disappear and then reappear again and then disappear again. And they're like, well, that's impossible. Fair enough, it is. But if you give me $10 billion, I'll try to make one.
I'll just tinker in my lab forever.
Here's $10 billion. And then they come back in 2 years. Well, where's our missile? You were right. We couldn't make it. Thanks for the 10 billion. But we got another idea that was 20 billion. It's just a fraud. It's black magic. It's anything they want to imagine. They say to the government, give me money for that. The government gives them money, and either it doesn't work or they give them something like the F-35 that doesn't work, but it looks good, and then they claim it works.
It needs to go. It needs to go. It needs to go. Man, you're right. Like the private company argument became really interesting when Twitter happened because you saw a lot of people who I would refer to as neoliberals. They're kind of like on the fringe of the libertarian movement, just jump up and it's a private company, bro. And many of us kind of sat back and were like, yeah, we'll see about that.
Right.
And then as everything was released, you're like, this is clearly a Fed operation. This is not a private company. A private company is like your mom and pop shop down the street, that are doing actual business with other human beings. Twitter was just soaking up government money, and it was just a mouthpiece for Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah. One of the things that's interesting is I found out from covering these things, Twitter, Facebook, etc. They hire ex intelligence people, former. So you've got Twitter who's loaded with, they said Facebook and Twitter, they had, or was it Twitter, had so many former FBI people that there was a group, that the group in there referred to themselves as the Bureau. They referred to themselves as the Bureau while they worked for Twitter. Why? Because they were really still the Bureau. So you're right. If the government, and that's the issue I think we have now. The government understands that, okay, I can't just censor you and get away with it that easy.
It's like
So
Hotel
they create a
California, you know.
front. Yeah, they
You
create a
check
front.
out. You
Yeah,
check out, but you never leave.
it's exactly. So what, knowing that I just can't do it, what do? I enlist the use of an agent. The agent is Twitter. The agent is Facebook.
Yep.
The agent is whoever that I use. And now I get my people working in there. I have the whole FBI committees that meet with them once a week to look at who's saying what, so I can give them lists of people. And the line between public and private doesn't exist anymore. If the government is giving you a list of people saying, hey, throw these people off Twitter, and you throw them off Twitter, there's no line between government and business. It's a fraud. It's something they use against us.
I mean, I'm sure they have like private bathrooms, so that's about it. You know, it's not a private company. It's not very private. It sounds quite state sponsored to me.
I'm thrown off Twitter right now.
Ugh,
you know,
horrendous.
I've been thrown the second time. I was thrown off Twitter before. They just said you're out of here because I criticized Tony Blinken, but I said, actually, in a satirical tweet, that he wanted to strangle Palestinians with his bare hands. I was ahead of the curve on that one.
Yeah.
And now you see why they threw me off, and they said you're thrown off for life. So then what's his name came back on, Musk bought it, and they let me back on. And at some point I got an email that said, we can't verify that you're the owner of this account, so we can't ever let you access to this account. I couldn't log in, and it said, change your password. I got an email that said, hey, there's been some suspicious activity on your account. You need to change your password. Okay, so obviously, it's my account because you sent me an email to change my password, right? So I went to change my password, and it said, this is how you this is, what is it? This is how you if your account is suspended or locked, this is the procedure you go through to get it unsuspended or unlocked. And I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. They just told me I need to change my password. So I sent them the email. They sent me one back that says, we cannot verify you as the owner of this account. And so we can't tell you who owns this account. We can't verify you as the owner of the account. Feel free to start another account. Now, they were sending the email to garlandin@gmail.com. The name of the account is @GarlandNixon. I paid for the verified account, and it came out of the bank account of Garland Nixon.
How much more verified can it be?
Twitter, I paid for it. There's a blue check beside it. I got a notice from them. Literally, I said, I want to be verified. They said, all right, we need your phone number, name, date of birth. I gave them all that information. I get a notice back from them. Congratulations, you're verified. Great, but you got to pay us. So, okay, great. I paid a year ahead of time. Right? So you verified me. You gave me a blue check mark. I pay a year ahead of time. 1 month later, they send me an email that says, we really can't verify that you're the owner of the account. We can't tell you who owns it. This account, Garland in, I've had the same account since 2009 with the exact same email address and the exact same login, everything, but they don't know who owns it now. And they can't really figure it out. So feel free. 120,000 followers. We can't be.
Oh, man.
They just threw Alan McLeod. He just had just today, Alan McLeod had like 130,000 followers. He wrote an article that's big everywhere. It's the top 10 people who receive money from AIPAC, and Joe Biden is at the top of the list.
Of course. Interesting. Yeah.
And what do you know? He's no longer on Twitter. Apparently his thing is still up, but I think they tossed him out the same way they did, similar or whatever the case may be. Maybe they couldn't figure out who owned the account with his either, I guess. And like a bunch of people are thrown off today. So
I saw that. I saw Caitlin Johnstone talking about it.
Yeah.
Man, it's just a reminder, we can all be excited about things that people like Elon Musk do, but trust and verify.
Well, the bottom line is this too. He just came back from Israel, didn't he? You know what I mean? He met with Netanyahu. He's got a lot of government contracts. We know how
Yep.
the game is played. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's just
You know.
we can't place our faith in these people. It's okay to hope, but let's be realistic about it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we got to abolish the corporate state and the military industrial complex, leaving Elon Musk to doing cool things like Tesla or digging tunnels, but the military contracts got to go.
Yeah. So we're going to address the situation, all of these terrible things that we talked to you about. Everyone who is involved with our abolish the deep state, everybody's who's involved with our rage against the war machine and defeat the deep state, everyone who's involved with our operation agrees on those 8 things. And I'm sure you do too, or you probably wouldn't still be in the chat, unless, of course, you're a government operative. And you are. Okay, somebody. I'm just talking to the people that are. They know who they are. But at any rate, but thanks anyway, because it helps the algorithm, because I got more viewers. But whatever the case, so the 17th of February, what time and where?
11 a.m. to 5 p.m. right in front of the Lincoln Memorial.
And oh, by the way, before we go, people out there want to know who our speakers are. Talk about, let them know, go through the list of our speakers so we can all hear. We all know there's somebody there that we like and we want to hear from, probably all of them, but let's go.
So we're going to be announcing a couple more big name speakers over the next week. So please check back at defeatthedeepstate.org. Hoping to get some more of those announcements live, which is going to be really exciting. But I will be there. Nick Brana from the People's Party should be there as well. My faithful co-host and a partner in this endeavor, Gerald Salente. I believe Tara Reid will be zooming in or sending us an electronic message. Of course, Garland Nixon, Keith Knight of the Libertarian Institute, Daniel McAdams of the Ron Paul Institute, Tatiana Moroz, who is a libertarian folk singer and a big mover and shaker in the Bitcoin community, Scott Horton of antiwar.com. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Scott Horton, Jose Vega, who I absolutely love and adore, of the Schiller Institute, Craig Pasta Jardula. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Pasta.
Convo Couch guy.
That's right. Mr. Convo Couch. David Swanson. Just absolutely delighted that he's going to be joining us.
Was it World Without War or something he
World
does?
Without War.
Yeah.
And Dan Cohen.
Yes, I know Dan. Dan works with the Redacted people, I think. With what's the guy, what's the guy and his wife over at Redacted? I don't know if he still does. I know he was working. There's a website. I can't think of the guy's name.
Let's see. Well, yeah, he is a journalist, and I'm super excited. And of course, and then also, how could I forget Patrick Henningsen too of TNT?
Patrick Henningsen's coming.
He absolutely is.
21st Century Wire. I've known him for years. He's awesome. He did a lot of stuff during the unmentionable time over the last few years.
That's right.
When the government was, telling us we had to do certain things and get a certain app on our phone that many of us had some issues with. Okay. Patrick Henningsen did a lot of 21st Century Wire. I think it's .com or .org. Check out his website. He's a great guy. I love him. He's actually, I think he's an American guy who moved over to Great Britain. I think last I heard he was living over there.
So we are going to be announcing several more speakers, but especially a couple of big names over the coming weeks.
Oh, so that's
please
awesome.
Check out defeatthedeepstate.org. Right now, we are fundraising to pay for our stage, our sound system, all that important infrastructure stuff. It is not cheap. We did it last year, though, so I'm confident that we'll do it again. But generous donations, we appreciate so much. And for those of you who have it in your hearts to become bronze, silver, or gold sponsors, we will make sure that you get set up with a table. If you have an organization, we'll get your name up on the banner, on the big screen, and do other things that we love to do when we're taking good care of our sponsors.
While we're here, let me just show people the website. We're still at, there we go, Defeat the Deep State. Here we go. While we're here, I will show everybody the site. You all can see that. The Rage Against the War Machine presents Defeat the Deep State. You see there? And there's right there, you can donate. Okay. We see lots of stuff there. We got Rage Gear down here. You can get Rage Gear. If you look up top, Coalition, the speakers, you can sign up. There's all kinds of things. We got right here, there's our speakers. If you click on that, there's all Coalition. These are the organizations. Look at that. The People's Party, Libertarian Party, all kinds of peoples are doing that. So there we go. Resources also, that's critical. If you click on that, you can get, we got live stream videos you can share. We got photos. Let me ask you this, on the date, let me find this. For those who won't be able to attend, but would like to watch, would like to, participate anyway, where will they be able to watch a live stream of what's going on?
You will be able to watch a live stream on YouTube, definitely through the Libertarian Party, the People's Party, and the Rage Against the War Machine YouTube channel. And we might also have it streaming to cable news. We are working on that right now. So that'll be a really interesting thing. And then I'm sure we'll probably be able to loop in our Twitter feeds as well.
Okay, I wonder if you guys will have a stream. I'd love to put it on my channel. I don't know if I'll be able to. I'll bring my stuff, but if that's possible, I don't know how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. I'd love if I can get a stream key or whatever to put it up. But whatever the case may be, make sure on the those who can't, on the date that it happens, which is the 17th of February, at what time? 11 to 5. Make sure that if you can't come to Washington, D.C. and watch it, that on that date that you connect to our live stream and that you share our live stream on all of your social media platforms. What we need is, there are a lot of people that can't, people are struggling, and not everybody can afford to head over to D.C. and people are all over the world. And if you're in Europe, if you're in other parts of the world, it benefits you to stop the U.S. government from pushing us towards a nuclear war, from overthrowing your government, from impoverishing your government. So it benefits you, because these crazy neocons are just completely out of hand and they're threatening us all. So everyone, do what you can on the date that it happens. Stay in touch with us. Go to the website, Rage Against the War Machine, defeatthedeepstate.org. Go to defeatthedeepstate.org regularly. When you see, we got some more big names. When you see those big names coming, like, holy moly, I can't believe that person is there, right? Share it everywhere. Share a link, take that picture, put it up all over. Hey, everybody, look who's going to be there, and do everything that you can out there to work with us. The people running the deep state, the government, they got unlimited funds. We don't have unlimited funds, but we got unlimited people.
That's right.
And those who can be there. Those who can speak. Those who can clap. And those who can't, no matter where you are. If you just share the stream on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, if 100,000 people do that, then at least one person will see that. And you'll bring in another 100,000 or more. What if everybody, we get 100,000 people and each one of them can bring in 5 or 10 people just by sharing it on Twitter and YouTube and all the other places they can share it. So that's your job. We got 611. My glasses don't fail me. We got 611 people watching right now. So on the date that we do this, that should be a minimum of 611 people who are sharing the link, sharing the stream. And prior to that, you guys go to defeatthedeepstate.org, share that on all of your social media platforms. And most importantly, share this video on all your social media platforms so people can listen to us. They can see Angela. They can listen to what she has to say, and they can get an idea of what this whole thing is about. Angela, do you have any parting words for our guests?
I think that it's really incredible that people from the left and right and independent sectors are able to come together and rebuke the deep state and the war machine. I want to keep this going. I appreciate so much that you're helping us out, Garland, and I'm just really excited about the hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of people that we're going to be able to wake up to this.
Yeah, it's one last thing I'll say is, to the people who are like, oh, well, you're dealing with that group, whatever it is. Oh, the libertarians or the socialists, the Schiller Institute. Oh, no, they're whatever, right? I think that what we're doing brings the greatest fear to the people in charge. That the biggest fear that they have, as long as it's the libertarians, there are not but so many of them, or the socialists, there ain't but so many of them, or whatever group, the Schiller Institute or whoever the heck, right? There ain't but so many of them. But when people start all coming in, their big fear is that all the plain old regular old working class people will come together one day and realize that they're being had, and realize that there's more of us than there is to them, and that we want what we were promised. We were promised a republic or a democracy or something. We were promised that we would have input, that we would be able to decide who our leaders are, and that they would be forced to listen to us. And there's checks and balances. We were promised something, and it's been stolen from us, and we aim to take it back. How about that?
I love it.
All right, thanks, Andrew Mcardle. Everybody, don't forget, share this. And as I always say, there's a like button. Slam that like button. Molest, beat, attack. Punch the like button, whatever you can. Make sure that like button gets touched, because the algorithm will, the more likes, the more people will see this because of the algorithm. So do not cut this thing off before you click on the like button. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot, Angela Mcardle, and we are out.